Once a giant, always a giant. For me, it's only a giant.
What's going on YouTube? Diggy546 back at it again from the dumpster fire. Back at it again. And today we got some more interesting news, and I don't know what to tell you, people. I don't know what to tell you. I saw this pop up and I just clicked on it, and I'm just like, more disappointing things coming from former Giants players. Now, last week we got Brandon Jacobs saying "Fly Eagles fly," rooting for Saquon to win a Super Bowl. I understand that he knows him in real life. He got a relationship with him. But just to tweet out "Fly Eagles fly" as a former Giant, it just rubbed me the wrong way. And now this week we got Victor Cruz. Now, he said in his ideal scenario, I'm going to read this off. He says that he thinks that the perfect quarterback to go get is Sam Darnold. He thinks the perfect quarterback to go get is Sam Darnold. He said you obviously have to pay him a little bit, but I think from a cap perspective, we can afford him. We can't. We can, but not on a one-year deal. And then I think he could come in and then Arch Manning comes in 2026, and he doesn't necessarily have to start right away. He can learn from a guy like Sam Darnold. Now, Victor Cruz, one of my all-time favorite players as a Giant, one of my all-time favorite. Ecstatic. I mean, he gave me some of the best moments as a Giants fan that I've experienced in my life, because I've only been around, since the late 90s, early 2000s. So I saw the last two Super Bowls, and in 2011, huge. Yeah, the 99-yarder against the Jets, just him breaking out. Great story. Will forever, ever live on in my mind. But for Victor Cruz to come out and say that the Giants got to sign Sam Darnold, and his reasoning for it is that he's going to be a stopgap for Arch Manning. Now, Arch Manning, right? Arch Manning has pretty much all but said, he's all but said through his action that he's very comfortable where he is. He's very comfortable where he is. He's set for 2 years behind Quinn Ewers in Texas. He's set for 2 years there, and he has not asked for a trade. And when I say trade, he hasn't jumped in the portal. He hasn't gone anywhere else. Not like he hasn't had any other options with his last name. And we've barely seen the guy play. That's the first thing. So we've barely seen Arch Manning play, and we're not sure if he's good. Does he have a lot of great tools? Yes, a lot of great tools. But just because he was dominant in high school and he looked good in a couple college snaps does not necessarily mean that Arch Manning is the future of the NFL, because we haven't even seen him play a full put together a full college season. That's the number one thing. The second thing about Arch Manning is that we don't even know if he's coming out next year. Why wouldn't Arch Manning give himself 2 years to play? Why wouldn't he give himself 2 years to play? We've heard from the Mannings that they want him to finish all 4 years. Why not let him get his degree? He has no incentive for coming into the NFL early because he doesn't need to get paid. Like, yes, he's not Eli or Peyton's son, but his grandfather is Arch Manning, is Archie Manning. His uncles they have money. Cooper had a show, so I'm sure they're financially doing well. I'm sure Arch Manning didn't grow up struggling. And at this point, it's like, we don't know much about the kid. We don't know much about him. And he's probably going to stay for the next 2 years. So to sign Sam Darnold to say, you'll probably be our quarterback in 2025, you'll probably be the quarterback in 2026, and then in 2027 is when we might take Arch Manning. We might take Arch Manning in 2027, and he sits. First off, I think if you're signing Sam Darnold, you take a developmental quarterback this year, and Sam Darnold is just your quarterback. He's your quarterback, and whoever you draft is your backup quarterback. That really is the only thing that makes sense, because to pay Sam Darnold, he's going to command a good chunk of change. I'm thinking that we're going to have to pay him around the same amount of money that we just paid Daniel Jones, because we paid Daniel Jones $40 million a year after he had 24 touchdowns or 22 touchdowns or 22 or 24 touchdowns total. And Sam Darnold is coming off of a season where he threw for 4,300 yards, 66 completion percentage, 35 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. The last time a Giants quarterback has thrown for 35 touchdowns was 2015 or 2014 maybe. One of those 2 years was when Eli did it. The Giants haven't had that kind of performance in a very long time. So to get Sam Darnold here, and again, to ask Sam Darnold to come back to the place that he experienced all this trauma, all this pain as a young quarterback in the NFL. He's back under the spotlight. He has a big contract now. All of the expectations in the world are there for Sam Darnold. All of them in the world. And I don't know if I believe in Sam Darnold. I saw him collapse as a Jet. I saw him go to a great coach. So, I won't discount that. He's got a great coach over there in Minnesota. But at the same time, is that coach the reason that he really broke out, besides him being a great coach? Or is it partially because he was in a smaller market and partially because the New York media wasn't breathing down his neck and he wasn't seeing ghosts? Now, obviously, he got better because of coaching. Obviously, he got to sit for a little while, I think, in LA with the Rams. But at the same time, does he want to come back to New York, back to a big market, back to the same city that he was, back to, the same community where he played terribly? So I'm thinking we really have to crack open that bank. And then when he gets here, let's not just rule this out. When he gets here, we are not sure that he's going to be the same guy. 1 year of really great football. He played like a top 5 quarterback this past year. 1 year of really great football. And let's go over his last couple years before that. 2022 on the Panthers. 1,143 yards before I think he got hurt or benched. I think he got benched. 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So, fine. Another year before that, 2,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. After that, 2,500 yards, 9 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. He has not had a bunch of good years. Now, he had a 3,000-yard season in his second year, 19 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. He's basically had an identical career to Daniel Jones up until he got benched and, became who he is now. He's essentially had an identical career to Daniel Jones. So do we want to continue this same mistake? Do we want to continue the same mistake of saying, like, listen, we're going to overpay based on limited production, based on 1 year of production, to a guy that pretty much folded in the playoffs this year? The guy folded in the playoffs this year. Do we want to make the same mistake again? That's my only thing. So I don't want to make that same mistake. I don't think it's worth paying this guy $40-something million a year for another, 4-year deal or 3 or 4 year deal like we did for Daniel Jones. I think he's probably going to even ask for more. And I don't know if we're prepared to do that. And again, we have cap space this year. We're at $50 million. If we make a couple moves, maybe we'll be at $60-something million. We spend $40-something million per year on Sam Darnold. You better believe that part of that cap number is going to go to the next year. So that means that we're going to be looking down the road where he'll have $50-60 million cap hits. So I'm not a fan of it. You all let me know if you're a fan of it. I think Victor Cruz was just kind of just talking, and I don't think he was making a lot of sense, because bringing Sam Darnold here with the plan of eventually drafting Arch Manning, it just doesn't seem very sound. I would rather, listen, we're going to be at 3. I'm very confident at this point from everything that I've seen that Shedeur Sanders will be an option. I think he'll be there at 3. Or I think the Giants will make a move up for Cam Ward. I think we're going to leave this draft with the quarterback as far as the first round. Now, if we don't, and we take an ultra-talented guy, just imagine we take Jackson Dart in the second round, or we trade up to the end of the first round to take Jackson Dart, or we take a guy like Will Howard in the 3rd or 4th round, or we take a guy like Tyler Shuck. If we take a young quarterback and we say this is going to be our quarterback going forward, we want to develop him, everything like that. If we do that, and this quarterback ends up being a bad player, all you have to do is let them crash and burn for 2 years and then take Arch Manning if he's a guaranteed superstar quarterback. Because what I don't understand where this thought process that Arch Manning is just strictly available to the Giants. Like no one else will have a shot at him. And if he's this generational kind of talent that people think he is, that these teams are going to trade out of the first pick to the Giants to give up Arch Manning. So, like I said, I'm off my soapbox. Always love going Victor Cruz way. I I I just had to call this out. I just didn't think this was a very good take. So you all let me know what you're thinking as far as possibly going the Sam Darnold route, waiting for Arch Manning for next year, let him develop, because I just think that the methodology behind that isn't very sound.